Well, good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Welcome. My name is Kyle Elliott, and I'm coming to you from sunny California. I'll be one of the presenters of today's webinars sponsored by Right Crowd, Access Chaos and the Insidious Threat. Let me have my co-presenter introduce himself.
Good morning, afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for that, Carl. I'm based in the UK, dreary and grey as usual. I'm Tony Scriven, and I am the pre-sales engineer.
Again, welcome and thank you for being here. Let's get started. The word insidious in our title may have caught your attention because we associate it with something bad, even evil. And we chose this word with purpose because its definition is perfect in describing the type of threats we'll be talking through on today's webinar. Insidious, the definition actually means to proceed in a gradual, subtle way, but with harmful effects. It sounds ominous, doesn't it? But that's exactly what we're going to shine a light on today. Some of the most overlooked yet dangerous challenges facing organizations, challenges that stem from poorly managed physical access control processes that can be easily remedied. Access chaos might not always be obvious, but it's insidious, lurking beneath the surface of everyday operations and often overlooked. It's a problem that can leave your organization exposed to cybersecurity breaches, compliance penalties, and even put your workers and employees' safety at risk. And so, whether it's dormant credentials left active, access privileges that have accumulated over time unchecked, or a lack of centralized visibility across systems, these root causes can lead to severe consequences if not addressed. So let's talk about what our agenda for the webinar will be today. We're going to focus on four kind of key common threats that are revealed to most organizations. We'll have an opportunity for some question and answer at the end, and then an opportunity for you to learn more about Right Crowd and our organization. In today's webinar, again, we'll focus on hidden threats posed by unmanaged access, root causes of access chaos and why they're easy to miss, real-world impacts from audit challenges to physical security issues, and practical solutions for regaining control over access management, improving efficiency, and minimizing risk. And so our goal by the end of the webinar is that you'll have a clear understanding of the risks your organization may be facing and actionable strategies to eliminate these threats before they become impactful, costly problems. Let's dive in and start making sense of access chaos in the hidden insidious threat. We'll jump in kind of to our first topic, and that's, top of mind for a lot of us, cyber attacks or corporate espionage, loss or theft of critical intellectual property. So for most organizations, onboarding their workers manually, either in a PAC system or utilize an old legacy system or even home brewed systems for auto provisioning. And either of those scenarios often leads to the wrong access for a worker to perform her or his work, or even worse, guesswork access provisioning, resulting in over-access credentialing to the badge. This gives potential bad actors a pathway towards cyber attack from within, intellectual theft, and the like. I think we all kind of know this, but some key metrics. Did you know that over 70% of cyber attacks originate from within an organization, and the average cyber attack costs, on average, over $4 million? But a modern, intelligent, data-connected solution like Right Crowd Smart Access can mitigate this risk, drastically reducing this insidious threat. So, Tony, let's unpack this first kind of challenge or access chaos. And maybe you can show us how Right Crowd Smart Access solution can help our audience eliminate wrong or ineffective access provisioning and help us all sleep better at night.
Thank you very much, Carl. And you sort of hit on a few key points there. Manual processes, disparate operational processes across different stakeholders and organizations within the company, and how they're all managed centrally or not in the case. Right Crowd would integrate with the relevant systems, and via that integration, it allows data mapping to make sure that the data that we pull between one system and our solution is in line with PII requirements. It also When we do the initial onboard of an identity into our system, we have rules and workflows in place that take that information from the HR source and automate those operational processes that would be in place for that organization. Prime example, Chris Lee, he's just joined the organization. He's a new employee. He's currently got no access methods or access levels assigned to him as a user because he's brand new to the organization. If this was a manual process, it would be down to security to reach out to the line manager, to the organization, or have a general knowledge of how this person operates because of the department or location he's based in. RightCrowd, via integration and automation, takes that away from the users, from the security teams, from the administrators of the system. What it does, it integrates rules and processes in our solution. Once these rules are actually completed and implemented, they will be automatically complete the operational processes outlined by said rule. This in itself, obviously, as we see now, he's now got a new staff card that's been automatically requested by the system during an onboarded automated process. The default access has been determined by the system itself, so it knows who's got access to certain areas. It can then assign that by the default location. We can also have additional processes where we look at training and other requirements for the automation of this onboarding process. This in itself obviously reduces human error. It reduces someone getting too much access, not enough. And by automating the onboarding and access provisioning process and integrating with other systems, RightCrowd enables a streamlined, secure, and compliant management process across disparate systems, disparate sites, and multiple access control systems. Back to you, Carl.
I think in summary, Tony, what you just showed us was I can fully integrate my authoritative data sources, right? My identity systems, my HR systems with my physical access control system or systems, as it may be if I have multiples. And I can completely automate the workflow and the policies around the best and right access for workers, basically leaving no doubt that things are done properly, but also streamlining things so that there's highly effective mechanisms being able to provide provisioning and deprovisioning of workers. Does that sound right?
Absolutely spot on. And all of this is automated in line with the operational processes with no human intervention other than creating the rules on day one.
Sounds great. All right, let's maybe unpack our next potential insidious threat, and I think it's one that we can all appreciate, and it's the physical safety of your workforce at risk, and the consequences of uncontrolled access. And I think this is really a common problem that none of us really want to kind of admit exists. Which is how there's a lack of automated process control on how best to deprovision badge access to workers leaving an organization. And of course, the consequences, frankly, can be catastrophic. Time and again, we see workers who have left the organization, full-time employees, part-time employees, or contractors who leave the organization with their badge still active and to open doors. And the worst case scenarios we hear about, unfortunately, in the news, active shooters, a dismissed and disgruntled worker with intent to harm, and there's really no reason for it. Modern data connected solutions like that offered by RightCrowd can eliminate this risk and guaranteed deprovisioning when and how you want, just like IT does with logical system access. So let's unpack this, Tony. Can you show us how easily this insidious threat can be eliminated to ensure departing workers' physical access is deactivated with RightCrowd Smart Access?
And that's a great point, Carl. Everything, if it's manual process, it has to be triggered by someone within the organization, whether that's a contracting company or HR letting security know that these people have actually left the site, left the location. Without that input, security are unaware of what's happening with the personnel across their sites. Everyone, as we've seen in every organization, they're great at onboarding because they want the contractors or the employees to do the role that they've been actually assigned for. But the offboarding process is usually left to either active records, and I used to work for a company and I went back a few years later, and funny enough, my admin access and my physical security access still work. So it does happen in the workplace if no implemented system like RightCrowd is in place. Chris Lee, he's been working at the organization for a long time. We've seen that he's got the default access method as we saw when we onboarded him. We can now configure one of the many rules that allows us to offboard an individual within the RightCrowd system automatically. It could be an automated offboard from the HR source. So the HR data updates his status or his end date, and we replicate that via the integration directly into RightCrowd. And then we automatically provision that in the access control system. We can have somebody who's urgently terminated. So they need to be off-site as of now because they're a security risk. Maybe they're a disgruntled employee who needs to be left. We can implement rules in place that allows administrators or security or line managers to fulfill that role and offboard that individual. As you can see, just by running that inbuilt rule to replicate the HR sync, the employee status is now inactive. His access method is also inactive. So we know, because of the downstream integration, and we can also create reports to show this event tracking, that the access and the card and the person have all been deprovisioned automatically in RightCrowd and the access control system. This reduces, obviously, the input from security teams, the knowledge of security teams, and this can be done for things like contracting companies on their end date. This could be their contract end date, or if a contracting company is offboarded within the system, we will make sure that every assigned contractor to that contracting company will also be offboarded in the system as well. RightCrowd, obviously, on offboarding automation guarantees that access is terminated in real time. So these will happen and trigger as they happen, whether that's a scheduled event or a live event. It reduces unauthorized access because we know those people have been offboarded successfully in the system, and we can also maintain full compliance and obviously aid your security policies. Back to you, Carl.
Yeah, just one quick question for you, Tony. In your experience, why is this a challenge? Why is if IT can deprovision logical access, network access so effectively, whether it's a retiring worker or a contractor leaving their job, or even that urgent termination, why is it a challenge for security to make sure that a badge is deactivated with a high level of confidence?
I think there's multiple stages here. One, it's an input from a person, so a contract company or an HR or a line manager has to let security know, whereas they're quite good at doing IT because they have to hand back a physical device. It could also be that that person who's being offboarded is not currently in the access control system, or they have multiple access control systems and they have to onboard from multiple entry points. So different Linnell need app secure systems itself. It would require security to not only deactivate it from their local site, but inform other security teams that they also need to remove access from the other access control systems. And they may not be aware of all of that information because none of it's centralized like an IT system.
Yeah, yeah, I think that is the common couple of reasons. And I think the takeaway from here is that the level of control and confidence that IT has in making sure that workers are deprovisioned, that same level of control and confidence can be provided to our security organization to make sure that badges are deactivated when and how you want, with the level of confidence and even compliance reporting to guarantee that, so that we don't have workers walking around with active badges. That's a good one. Let's move to our next and talk around access frustration. This is kind of at the worker side of the scenario here. And look, worker physical access happiness as it relates to returning to the office, either full-time or part-time, may not always be the highest priority of the security department. But as we see in the news, it's very important to the executive suite, especially with return to office initiatives. Physical access and the doors you can badge into may change literally almost daily. And none of us really have permanent desks anymore. So access to the office floor and door requires smart software to manage policy approval and provisioning to the badge or to the mobile credential if you're utilizing a mobile phone. And if it's not fast and reliable and scalable, worker frustration and anger can almost be inevitable. So a solution like RightCrowds can solve this problem. And so, Tony, maybe walk us through a common sort of change access request and approval that can be fully automated through smart access, so that worker happiness as it pertains to a hybrid workplace or access provisioning at a moment's notice can be accomplished.
Perfect. So one of the main components to this is obviously making it easy for the end user. We want to make sure that it's streamlined and acceptable to up to them to obviously make sure that they complete this and actually adopt the solution itself. Within RightCrowd self-service portal, we allow the end user, whether it's via their tablet or their actual laptop itself, to request additional access to the area, either the area that they need to request internally because they've got a project or a process they need to go through, or to be able to revisit the office that they're only working at 60% of the time. Very straightforward process. This could be done on behalf of yourself, or this can be done on behalf of by your line manager. Depending on the scenario, they can request access for the required area. We'll pick on Chris Lee again. We'll then select his information. We'll then put in a reason because we want to make sure that he's coming to the right location, and for auditing and reporting purposes, we want to utilize this data later. I'm just going to put required. We can then add the relevant access level information. The way it works with RightCrowd is we integrate to the access control system, whether that's one or multiple. We then pull in the door matrix so that we've got the full list of all doors that are available. And then in our system, we configure the approval structure that is in place. I'm an employee. Chris. I've got to come back to the London office to do my 2 days a week because my wife and children are stressing me out at home and I can't wait to get some distance. So I'm going to pick the London office. And this can either be a permanent approval process where it's assigned for the whole year or a given set period, or it could be conveniently that we only do it for a day at a time and then they have to request access to revisit the building. All completely configurable within RightCrowd. As a user, I can submit that request, and what will happen automatically is it will go to the area approvers. They will receive an automated email, and as you can see here already, we have the approval already in our work tray. Work tray is a centralized place within RightCrowd. It means that you can have multiple security administrators, approvers, all accessing the same database, but then pulling and claiming the relevant tasks that are available to them. Very simple. I can either reject, I can even add the start time, end time as the approver, and I can approve or reject this access. All of this, remembering if you were doing it manually, would be me ringing up security as the requester. Security would then take relevant information. If they knew it, great, from an Excel spreadsheet. They would then reach out to the approver or the line manager to manually get those processes in place before they then assign it to your record in the access control system manually. RightCrowd allows this connection directly between the requester and the approver. Security can be a step in the middle if you need them to be, but it allows you security to do other roles within the organization. We can add a comment. I'll just put approved, which will stay with the history of this request as well from an auditing standpoint. Maybe approve this once, maybe just approved, and then we can obviously submit this request. What will then happen is it will get assigned to my access pro for my cardholder record and then automatically push to the access control system. This not only streamlines the process, makes it easier for the end user, but it also streamlining the access request and approval workflows. It can enhance operational efficiency. Obviously, it helps security because the workflows are already configured and in place. It provides transparency to the end user and the approver because they know of their personas and roles assigned to them. And it ensures that all access is securely granted in line with company policies and automatically provisioned in the access control system by the RightCrowd integration.
So let's
Over
talk
to you,
about
Carl.
kind of a common use case here, Tony. Let's say my home office is San Francisco, but I've just been called to an emergency meeting in Los Angeles, and I've forgotten or overlooked to request access to that office. That's not my home office. I'm en route from LAX to the downtown office. Can I use my mobile phone to request access and feel that when I get there in 15 minutes, that access will be provisioned so I can get into that Los Angeles building?
Yep, so you can use your mobile device as long as you have access to the network to gain access to RightCrowd. But yes, you can use your mobile device, log into self-service, request the required access. If it's approved within that period by the area approver, great. But we also have roles and functions in the system which allow administrators of RightCrowd to determine and assign an audit record of that they have proved that on behalf of someone else.
So in today's hybrid workforce, hybrid workplace, this real-time capability of data streaming and process approval is really meaningful to that whole worker happiness experience.
There's no delay, security aware of the processes, and obviously having that operational efficiency, and that's the streamlining of the processes makes it quick and easy for everyone involved in the process.
Terrific. That's great. All right, let's unpack I think our last topic for today's webinar. Time is moving by, but I think again this is a topic that I think is meaningful for all of us on this call, and it's the challenges of audit and compliance reporting, right? And it really doesn't matter whether you're a highly regulated industry like a bank or a data center or a public utility, public safety organization. Most organizations, whether they're highly regulated or not, are doing quite a bit of physical access audit reporting today. And we have to ask the question right up front: what is the cost of failed physical access audits? It can result in a fine. It can have an effect on your brand and damage it. It could even affect your stock value if there's some kind of news. You even have the potential of shuttering of a business unit if it's a highly regulated industry. I'll give an example in case this was a hospital, for example. In today's environment, doctors, nurses, and staff are actually deciding which hospital to work at based on their confidence that policy compliance is being, managed by smart software, so that they feel safe and secure while they're going about doing their work in healthcare. A modern AI-enabled solution like RightCrowds can connect disparate systems, automating access compliance reporting and flag risks for mitigation. So this is an important topic, I think, for all of us, Tony. Let's say I'm an area owner of a highly restricted area in my business and I have to generate monthly reports. How can I save time and money and prove policy compliance with a solution like Smart Access?
That's a great point, Carl. Most of the processes to get through to this step is a manual process. I, as a security administrator, would be informed that this process would be requested. I would then have to look at the access control system, take the data, analyze the data, and provide a report with that information, which is heavily time consuming. Having an integrated system like RightCrowd allows me not only to know who has assigned the access, who the cardholder records are through the workflows and processes that we have from identity management, but depending on the access level of the door, we can then set up what we call an area attestation audit. This is an automated process that could be mapped either on a schedule or it could be requested by the area owner ad hoc. And what this allows a system to do is look at everyone who has access to a certain area. And this could be on a monthly, yearly, weekly basis, depending on the risk level of the door. What this allows us to do is create an automated attestation audit. So we'll just pick on this one here. We know who's in the building. We know who has access to these areas because we've already approved them and we've got the full historic register that this is happening. But one of the key things here is, as we all know, if you work for an organization long enough, you will have an all access card because access is always given when requested, but it's never removed until you leave the organization. And in certain areas, data centers, this one obviously a vault access, is high risk. So we have to, in line with either regulatory requirements or standard security operational processes, need to confirm via the approver or even the line manager should these people continue to have ongoing access to given areas. We generate this report, as we saw on the previous screen, via the schedule, and the approver or line manager can then select who should continue to have ongoing access. The great thing about this, because of our dynamic integration with the access control system, we can also follow this up with event data on when was Sarah Connor's last swipe? Has she been in there for a given period? We can also add rules that if that access area has not been swiped or changed within that given period, we can remove it from their cardholder record. So there's a lot of dynamic processes that we can implement to aid this process. But once it's set up, very simple for the area owner or line managers just to sit continue or revoke. If we revoke and save, it automatically removes this from Aaron's record in our system, and it will automatically remove it from the access control system as part of that natural integrated process. Having obviously through periodic access attestation and configuration, access control becomes easier, reporting becomes easier. RightCrowd helps your organization uphold security standards, and it also maintains your regulatory compliance requirements across all your sensitive areas. Back to you, Carl.
So my key takeaway on that, Tony, was pretty straightforward. That whether I'm generating an on-demand report or it's a scheduled report, I don't have to fumble with data. I don't have to go find things. I don't have to compile it. All of this can be managed through smart software like Smart Access. to automate that or generate on-demand reports. And even more than that, besides proving my policies are being adhered to, it will flag and call out opportunities to mitigate risk and other aspects of physical access that I may not even know about today.
Exactly. And obviously eliminating all of those manual processes reduces the overall risk, brings you more in line with your compliance, your regulatory compliance requirements, and also the return on investment to automate this process with a lot of organizations, different verticals, is very substantial.
Yeah, yeah. So let's kind of summarize as we're kind of coming down towards the end of the webinar here today. We've unpacked only just a few of these access chaos examples. We talked about cyber attacks and the way to eliminate that through the right and best access and not letting bad characters do bad things. We talked about worker safety and making sure that de-provisioning of badges is as effective as the IT and logical side. We talked about this whole hybrid workforce workplace and making sure that workers get the best and right access on a timely basis as they're moving from location to location. And then lastly, we basically gave the mechanism of fully automated through deep data integration, proof of compliance audit reporting that can be utilized by HR, IT, physical security, and even real estate and facility managers. These are just representing a few, but there are many, many other kind of use cases and examples where smart software like RightCrowd Smart Access can be utilized to fully automate this important physical access lifecycle. So let's kind of turn the page. We have a few minutes for questions and answers. You're more than welcome to drop your questions into the chat. If you can go back to that screen, let's see what we've got in regards to some potential questions. So I think the first one here, I manage multiple sites and I have different physical access control systems. Is the software capable of managing multiple manufacturers and different types of PAC systems? This might be a good one for you, Tony. We see this pretty commonly, especially with large organizations who grow through mergers and acquisitions and are constantly unable to standardize on one PAC system. Is a solution like RightCrowd able to manage all of the stuff you just showed us across all of these different PAC systems that don't talk to each other?
That's a great question. Obviously, having those disparate systems add a lot of manual processes to the organization. The way it works with RightCrowd is we integrate utilizing the manufacturer's API SDK, and then we utilize our own open API adapter to connect RightCrowd system to those integrated systems. We can then choose the access provisioning once we onboard those access levels into the RightCrowd system itself, and then provision the same automated workflows that we saw, with the output being the integrated access control system as the endpoint for the mobile credential or physical credential.
So I can as effectively use this software if I've got 10 different PAC systems as opposed to just one. Yeah.
Correct.
Let's see if we've got another question. That's a great question. What's a typical rollout time? Well, look, we all know that, the origination of PIM, the first generation, the legacy solutions were heavily custom coded solutions that took forever and a day to deploy and were very difficult to maintain. A modern solution like provided by RightCrowd is a next generation solution. It's completely containerized. We're able to typically deploy a full global PIM solution, typically anywhere between 3 and 6 months, depending on the complexity of rules or foreign locations and different workflows. So the modern solutions today are deploying much faster, delivering rapid value to an organization. But just as importantly, to how quickly it deploys, it's much simpler to maintain over time and upgrade, get patches and fixes to software without any custom coding, which is something we don't want to do today. Great question.
And just to add to that as well, when we deploy the system, it can be on-premise or in your private cloud or our hosted cloud.
I see that we've come up to time, so I know that there's a bunch of other questions, so we will endeavor to answer those and return those back to everyone that dropped them into the chat. I wanted to kind of conclude with an opportunity for you to connect with Tony or myself. You can see we're listed here. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. You certainly can go to the Right Crowd website to learn more about our organization and our use cases and collateral and other things. But also to request time with somebody just to have a chat about your unique role and your organization. And we hope today's webinar has given you a clearer picture of the hidden threats and the opportunities to correct those threats with modern AI-enabled solutions like provided by Right Crowd. Let's see if we can't, get rid of the chaos and reduce these insidious threats. Certainly, there's more to come. I think you can join us on December 5th at noon Eastern Time. We are going to demystify the differences between cloud native and cloud hosted PIM solutions and guide you through what to consider for a scalable, secure access management strategy. So please join that if you're available. On behalf of Tony and myself, thank you very much. And this will conclude today's webinar.